kids, welcome back to Camp Optimist. This is week 4 and this week's theme is Neptune's beach. I can't breathe. Okay, that's better. I got my bucket and my shovel. This week I need to collect some beach sand. We're going to create some beach. No, not beach. Sand art. Yes. We're not going to do it on the beach just because of safety. So we'll collect a little bit of the sand while social distancing, and then we'll make our way back home and we're going to create some art. I'm the Tobin-ator. Nothing stops me from creating. This week, 4 art project, sand art. Are you ready? I am. Wow, kids. I just went snorkeling. I thought, okay, I'll just have some fun while I'm collecting my sand. And oh my God, I saw the most amazing, the coolest fish you've ever seen. And I swear I saw a mermaid. I'm gonna draw them out for you. I think that's what we'll do. We're gonna create a fish and a mermaid out of sand. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't stop shaking. That was so exciting.
We are going to dye our beach sand. So there's the small remainder I have left. I've poured approximately 2 tablespoons or so into each bag. And then we're going to use just regular food coloring. And we're going to pour a few drops into each bag and mix it up. And I put a bag here and I put a bag here. These two are going to have 2 different colors. So we're going to mix blue and red, and that will give us purple. We're going to mix red and yellow, and that will give us orange. Okay, so each of these bags will have their own food coloring colors. These ones will have a drop of 2 different colors to create a new color. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so as you could see from using the food coloring, the yellow did not show up very good at all. But once I mixed some of the red, the orange tint actually did start to show through. Because the sand is such a brown color, it's actually quite hard to dye with the food coloring. So if you have any tempera paints or anything, that might work really nicely. The red came through sort of nicely. It more looks like a burgundy, I would suppose. The purple came through nicely, and the blue, it sort of looks on the greener tinge, which works nicely for our theme. And then the green came through really nicely, actually. So the food coloring works. If you want to try and use some paints and mix that with your sand, that works. That would probably work just as good, if not better. Or if you have the opportunity to collect sand that's lighter in color than this, then it'll probably work a little bit better too. That's one thing about art. It's an experiment and we're always learning. Yeah, so we've got all of our colors here. So you can keep them in the bags if you want to, or if you want to put them in like pour each one in a small container so that you could see the color more clearly. I'm going to keep mine in the bags just because I don't want to spill any. And I don't know if I have enough containers. Cheap dollar store sandwich bags is what I'm using. Okay, so, and they have the zip tie so I can easily tie it back up. As you noticed in the video, I closed it. Before I closed it completely, I released a little bit of air just so that it was easier for me to actually reach down and maneuver the sand between my fingers to get that color absorbed into each grain of sand. Okay, so I'm going to keep them in the bags for now until we're ready to do our art. All right, I'll be back. Another way to create colored sand without having to go to the beach is table salt. Yeah, believe it or not, this works really nicely for creating sand art. So what I've done is poured about, once again, 2 tablespoons or so of table salt into each baggie, cheap dollar store baggies. I've taken a piece of chalk, different colors, again, dollar store chalk, into each bag. So I chose a blue, and I don't know if this is a red or a pink, a yellow, purple, green, and an orange. And all you do is sort of blend it like this. What happens is the sand, I don't want to do it and talk at the same time, the salt acts as like a sandpaper, and it actually will grind up that little piece of chalk into very small particles, which colors the salt. So it's a pretty cool process. Keep it in the bags. It'll make it a lot easier for you. I have seen some videos where people will use a small container. They'll put their salt in, they'll put their chalk in, they'll put the lid on, and they'll shake it. The problem with that is you end up with big chunks of chalk sometimes. And then you have to sort of sift through it and pick out those big chunks of chalk, because we're not creating chalk art, we're creating sand art. However, we're also creating salt art. I think this is so cool. So we're going to take our time. We're going to go through each of these bags. Remember, choose your own colors. Whatever colors you want your fish or your mermaid to be are the colors that you'll need, all right? Or maybe you only have a few different colors of chalk, and that's okay too. Use what you have or what you want to use, okay? So if you just want to use red and purple and yellow, then go for it, okay? I like all these colors. I like options, so I chose 6 different colors. And now we're going to start blending that chalk and salt together to create some nice colors here. You'll also notice, one last thing I want to mention is that some pieces of chalk are bigger than the others. I want to try and make my orange and my yellow very vibrant, so I'm going to need a little bit more chalk. For the purple and the pink in particular, they're smaller pieces of chalk. That's all I had, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to, the chalk or the salt might not be as vibrant colored in the purple or the pink, but that's okay since I like the brighter colors anyways for my fish. So, so let's go ahead and we'll start mixing our chalk and salt together to create some nice colored salt. So as you can see, the salt and chalk works really nicely. Look at these colors. They're very vivid, nice bright colors. Okay. Now, just one thing I wanted to comment on with the chalk in the bag. Okay, when you're rubbing, try not to push down too hard. You're really just moving that chalk around. You push too hard, you may end up puncturing the bag, and then you'll end up with salt chalk everywhere. So just gently, you're just moving it around. It's going to look like I'm doing it really fast and hard because I've sped up my speed on the video so that you're not sitting there watching me make all this colored salt. Okay, so just gently, and you'll also notice that I flip the bag over and I move the salt around as well so that I don't keep pushing in the same spot. Okay, if you're going to use a container to mix it in, okay, you're going to just shake it gently, and hopefully you won't end up with big chunks of chalk. But I encourage you to try something new. You want to try to use a container and see if the chalk will separate nicely into the salt that way, then go for it. All right, after all, like I said, this is like an experiment. right? Art is sometimes a science, and I like this science. This is working really nicely to our advantage. So, salt and chalk. Who would have thought? Okay, so I'm going to keep these in the bag as well as my sand, and I'm going to get some pictures drawn up for you guys of my fish and my mermaid that I saw. And since this week is Neptune's beach, I think I'm also going to do Neptune, the god of the seas. Oh, how cool will that be? Yeah, it kind of ties in with last week's theme, right? Myths and legends. Let's do that. Let's have some fun this week. So there's 3 options. Okay, so I'm going to get those drawn up, and then we're going to take a look and you can choose. And I'm also going to supply you with an option to print out the drawing, or you can draw your own and work from that. Okay, so for the little ones, if you want to ask a family member or a parent to print out a copy of the fish or the mermaid or Neptune, and then you can just use that for your art, all right, for your sand art. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside and get my marker and get drawing, and I'll see you soon. I'll be back. Before I start getting drawing on our fish, mermaid, and Neptune, I thought I would talk a little bit about the different paper or canvas that you can use. So here's a small canvas I've decided to use for my mermaids. And I think the reason I want to use the canvas is because I'm going to paint the background. I'm going to make this like a mixed media sand art. So if you want to do something like that, I'm using just a blue and a green. I'm going to sort of make it like aqua background. And then I'll draw, once it's dry, I'll draw in my mermaid with a bit of chalk, and then I'll use my glue solution to get the sand to stick to it. I also have a piece of watercolor paper. So it's just a little bit of a thicker paper. You can use construction paper. You can use photocopy paper. I also have a piece of that here as well. Okay, we're only going to use a little bit of a glue solution, so photocopy paper will work just fine. You can also use newsprint if you want. Okay, so I'm going to use all 3 just to show you the options that you have. Okay, so I'm going to paint this first because it's going to need time to dry. I've got my water, I've got my paintbrush, and I've got my marker, my pencil, and my eraser. So when I'm drawing, if I'm not happy with the way it looks, then I can use my eraser and I can delete what I don't want and try again, right? I often say that an eraser is an artist's best friend because without it, you can't keep trying, right? You make a mistake, you know, they sort of get a bad rap, don't they, right? Oh, I made a mistake, I need an eraser. Oh, I did that wrong, I need an eraser. But without an eraser, you can't keep trying and improve on your skills and get better at something. So an eraser is a good tool to have. And I always sketch with my pencil first, so that way I can use my eraser and then I can, you know, explore my options, right? So you can draw something, and if you change your mind, erase it. Or if it doesn't look the way you imagined it, erase it and try again. Okay, so just wanted to mention that because that's important to me. I always teach that when I do the vowels classes, that an eraser is not a bad thing. Okay, and as you start to improve, you'll know when you might not want to use your eraser and challenge yourself to use an ink or a marker without your pencil and eraser, you know, so that you're more focused and you're more concentrated so that you don't mess up. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you're at that level, you know what I mean? I feel like I need to do a little rhyme now, but it's not coming to me. All right, I'll be back. So I've decided that while the paint is still wet on the canvas, I'm going to use the tip of my pencil and I'm going to actually remove a piece or part of the paint. I'm going to create space. So it looks like they're drawn on, but they won't be. There. So I'm going to do this like it's weeds, anime, growing in the water, right? Coming up from the bottom of the sea, of the ocean. Where do the mermaids live anyways? I guess they can be anywhere, couldn't they? All right, so we'll do that. I'm actually going to even add some jellyfish. How's that? I'll do this. So you can create art. Look at that. I'm removing, right, or moving around, really, the paint. Just like that. And you can create a whole new item or object onto the surface just by removing some of that paint. It'd sort of be our background. We'll do that. I can put whatever I want in here. Maybe I'll put like a starfish or something over here. I can do whatever you want, right? And we'll put little speckles on it. On the tip of my pencil is going to get all painted, so I always have some napkin or paper towel or an old rag here to work with. Let's do like a little shell or something here. Oh, we could do a nice pearl. This could be like that clam shell. There we go. Maybe it's shining bright. And we can have all kinds of fun. All right, all kinds of underwater adventure scene. That's what we'll call this. And maybe there's a big rock over here. So it's like I'm drawing, but all I'm doing is moving the paint around. I think this is so cool. This is fun. It shows the depths of which the mermaids live. That's why we don't know if they exist, because they live so deep in the water that they're hard to find. I think they use the anglerfish as their lanterns. Okay, so let's see if, once it dries, I'll do a close-up shot so you can see it. And once it dries, I'll also draw in the mermaid. And and we'll continue this piece together. All right, I'll be back. I've roughly sketched out a sweet little fish for us. I've already drawn in the eye, so I'm just going to continue to trace it with a marker so that the lines are more vivid and we can see where the separations are for when we're adding our sand. So I'm just going to keep tracing it. Okay, I'll be back. All right, there's our fish. He's swimming along. That's the fish I saw when I went snorkeling. Ah, I can't wait to see what colors you choose to use for your fish. And if you choose to use real sand dyed, or if you choose to use your chalk salt. All right, I'll be back. I just took some time to research Neptune, what he looked like and everything, and so this is what I've come up with. I'm going to trace it with a thin blue marker just to make it more visible. And then, yeah, those who wish can use this Well, you can see there, got a bit of a shadow from my lights, but that's King of the Oceans right there, King of all waters, really. And he's got his trident in his hand. He's just come up out of the water. So he's ready for business. Oh yeah. Anyone, maybe there's pirates in the distance and he needs to take care of them. But this will be posted up on the website. So if you want to use this particular picture to use for your sand art, then you are more than welcome to. Okay, otherwise, I challenge you, as always, to try and draw your own version of Neptune. What do you think he would look like? Maybe he has gills. Maybe he has fins. Okay, so I'm going to trace him out, and then I still have my mermaid to paint or to draw out. I'm just waiting for the paint to dry on the canvas. All right, so I'm just going to trace this. The canvas that I'm going to use for the mermaid picture has dried. And if I hold it up here, you can see how we scratched in those details. I've got some jellyfish, the starfish, and some other plant life in the bottom of the ocean there that's showing through. Yeah, isn't that cool? So we literally just removed the paint by scratching the tip of the pencil to create those markings. It's like we drew them in. I love that technique. So, but it has to be done while the canvas is still wet with paint. So as soon as you apply it, you have to get something. You can use a fork. You could use the tip of a knife or the end. You could even use the end of a paintbrush. Yeah. Anything that you have accessible to you will work. Just keep a cloth on hand so that you can wipe it down afterwards. And if you're using a fork, ask a parent which fork you can use, and maybe you can keep it in your art supplies, or it'll have to be washed right away. Okay, so now we're going to draw in the mermaid. I'm using a piece of chalk, and I've decided I just want her sort of floating in the bottom of the water, sort of, I guess for us it would be like treading water. Okay, so I'm going to start with her fin. So just an idea. Okay, say her head is around here, and her top part of her body, and then the bottom part of her body, I want it to go this way. Okay, so we'll have her waist here. And they have that typical sort of hourglass shape, don't they? But you can make your mermaid any shape you want. It could even be a merman. It doesn't have to be a mermaid. So we'll do this, and we'll do this. So I think we've got the bottom shape of her tail here. And then for her bodice, we'll come up like this. Now we're going to create a silhouette, so it's not going to have a lot of details. So I don't have to add in all that other, like her sorry, it's hard for me to draw. I can't do two things at once. Are you like that too? Can you talk and draw at the same time? So let's see here. So this will be the bottom part of her arm. I'm going to have it come down like this. And that will be the top part of her arm. And then her hand will be around here somewhere. And I want this hand, I think, or this arm to come upwards. So we'll start around here. And we'll go like this. And there's the elbow and the lower part of the arm. And then like that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a rough sketch. And it doesn't have to be perfect regardless, right? That's the good thing about art. It's the idea of what we're creating here. Okay, so then I don't think we even need, well, maybe we'll put in a little shoulder on this side. I don't think we really need to focus on that because she's got long hair in my imagination. So I'm going to have her hair coming down like this, like that. Maybe it'll come through under her arm like that, and like that. Okay, so all these details in here will disappear because we're going to create a silhouette. So I'm just going to take those out so we have a full idea of what this will look like once we get our sand in here. All right, so what do we think? That's going to look pretty cool, huh? Yeah, it's almost like she's singing. You know what? I want her to sing. I'm going to put in some musical notes here. I want my mermaid to sing. Oh, I'm so excited. We'll put one up here. And maybe we'll put a couple bubbles since she's singing. Oh, this is so pretty. I'm loving it. Let's put a triple note over here. She's got quite the vocal range in my imagination. So there we go. I added some musical notes. We've got a singing mermaid. All right, so I'm going to put that aside and get my sand and my salt ready, and then we'll start to fill in all the details on our pictures. To make the glue solution, it's about 3 parts glue, 1 part water. I'm just eyeballing it. So I put some glue in a circle like this. Okay, leaving a space in the middle. Close my glue. I'm going to use my spoon and I'm just going to get a little bit of water. Okay, not even a half of a teaspoon. And I'm going to pour that into the middle like that. Use my paintbrush and bring the glue in to mix the water with the glue. So we don't want that concentration of glue. We want a little bit of water because then the salt and the sand will absorb that water and stick a little bit better. Okay, so we're just thinning out the glue a little bit. Okay, so you go ahead and do that. And then I'll get my art and my sand ready and we'll get started on creating our masterpieces. I've got my glue mixture all made up here. It's just glue and water. We're just thinning it out a little bit. And I'm going to use just my beach sand for my silhouette of my mermaid. So we're going to get a little bit of that glue, and I'm going to start at the top so my hand doesn't run into it. And we're just going to apply that glue mixture. You want to be able to see it on the canvas or on your paper. Just, all right, not too thick, but enough that you can see a little bit of the white. And if you're using white paper, you'll see that it's wet. Okay, so I'm just going to, and you'll notice this process doesn't take very long at all. I'm using a small brush so that so I can get these lines nicely, these outlines. Okay, and I don't want to leave any empty spaces. Make sure you fill in all those spaces with your glue. I'm just going to go to her waist here, I think, just because I don't want this glue to start drying up on me. So let's get her other arm in there. Yeah, any missed spaces, and then the sand won't stick to that area. You'll have a missed spot. But you can always go back after and add it when you realize that that has happened. Okay, so there we go. I'm just going to take a little bit of the sand with my fingers, and I'm going to put it between my fingers like that. Yeah, and then just gently drop it in place on top of the glue mixture, just like that. And don't worry if it goes outside of the lines. It doesn't matter, it won't stick there. And we're just going to shake it off afterwards. So I'm going to keep doing this, and then we'll catch back up later once it's finished. The top half of the mermaid where I applied the glue is covered with sand now. So what I'm going to do so that I don't make a mess is get a piece of paper. You could use a plastic bag, you could use newsprint, whatever you want. And we're just going to tap it like this. There we go, get in the frame of the camera here. Just gonna tap it like this and get all that excess sand off where the glue is not laid down. Okay, so we're starting to see the image of the top of the mermaid there. So this is working and it's turning out really pretty. And then we can gather up this sand, fold the paper, and create like a little funnel effect. And put it right back into our container. Okay. So yeah, I decided to take the sand out of. Oh no, this is not the colored sand. I was going to say if you're using the colored sand, put it in a small container just so it's easier to get at. Unless you fold over the edges of the Ziploc baggie so you can reach in without making a mess all over the place. I just thought this would be a little easier to manipulate while we're working. Okay, so I'm going to keep that paper there for the next part. I'm going to continue to glue the rest of her body here, her tail, and the music notes and the bubbles, and lay my sand down, and this piece will be finished. I can't wait to see the end result. Stay with me. So there's our mermaid. Applied the glue solution, right? 3 parts glue, 1 part water. Laid the sand out, just sprinkled it on actually. I added some musical notes and some bubbles. And once it dries, I'll probably get just a very, very lightly dampened cloth and take away all the little pieces of sand dust that have accumulated on the canvas there. What do you think? It turned out pretty cute, didn't it? So that's our mermaid mixed media sand art. And we're calling it mixed media because we've got different mediums that we've used. We've used a paint on the canvas, and then we've used our sand art. So once you have more than one type of art medium, then it becomes mixed media. Hey, are you interested in creating your own mixed media piece of art? It takes a little bit more time, but the process is so much fun. And look at the end result. That's pretty cool. What a beautiful mermaid. I wonder what she sounds like. No, don't worry. I won't dare try to sing for you. I do not have a tone at all. So we'll just look at it and enjoy. Don't forget to share your mermaid art. I'm back with our little fish here. So that's the drawing we did earlier on of the fish that I saw when I went snorkeling. So I've got all of my colored chalk salt here, and I sort of have an idea of what colors I want to use where. I'm going to keep the blue so that I can do some lines in the background just to show that it's in blue water. So I haven't drawn that on. We can just do that with the glue solution after we have the fish all completed. So if you want to, if it makes it easier for you, use a little bit of a colored pencil or a crayon, and you can just lightly tap the areas with your color so that you know which colored salt you want to put into which section of your fish. Okay, so if that makes it easier for you, then you go ahead and you do that. Okay, I'm going to randomly select areas and use one color at a time. It'll be easiest to do that so that we don't have colors blending into each other. However, if you want your colors to blend, then go for it. You can create sort of a rainbow effect, couldn't you? If you grabbed a little bit of each color and just sprinkled it everywhere, that would look really pretty as well. So one other important thing, when we're applying the glue paste, I'm going to try my hardest to avoid these black lines. We want to see these lines in between all of our colored salt. Okay, so it will just make it more vibrant. It'll pop right off of the page because it'll look like it's outlined, okay? Which I guess it is, isn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to start applying some glue into certain areas. I might leave some areas white, which is the color of the paper, so I won't put any glue there at all. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with my red. Yeah, I'm going to start with my red. I think I'm going to start one of the more vibrant colors and work my way to the lightest color, just so that I don't have a lot of that residue, that dust that collects all over the paper. Mind you, once it dries, you can easily wipe that off. Okay, however, it might create a cool effect too. All right, let's get started. I had to stop for a moment and show you something that I just realized. Do you notice over here some of these blank spots? When I was tapping my paper to release the excess salt, I tapped a little too hard and the areas that haven't dried yet ended up falling off. So I'm going to have to go back and just tap in a little bit of glue over here and add a little bit more of my red color there. So lesson learned, when you're tapping, do it very gently. You just want the salt that's sitting on the bare paper to slide off. We don't want to lose any of the salt that's glued down, okay, because the glue is still wet. All right, so we'll keep going. When I lost some of my colored salt from tapping too hard and I went to go and put some more glue on, I ended up with some salt on the tip of my brush. So I'm going to have to wash my brush off now because we don't want this color in the glue and ending up in a spot where you don't want the red. Okay, so just a word of advice, you might have to keep a little bit of water nearby to clean your brush in between and a cloth to wipe it with afterwards. I went ahead and added the green salt, and I'm realizing that other particles of salt keep falling off as I'm removing the excess. So I used my paintbrush and I sort of removed the excess that way. It made a little bit of a mess. Then I had to go back and take all the salt off of my tablecloth. I think the best way to create this way, just because it takes the salt a little bit longer to dry the glue, is that you almost have to wait in between colors to apply the next one. So this one is going to take a little bit longer to do. I also think it has something to do with the paper. The paper doesn't absorb that glue, water, and salt combination as quickly. So you'll have to have a little bit more patience with this one, unless you use a watercolor paper or a canvas or a thicker type of paper, like a construction paper or something like that. The photocopy paper, unfortunately, is not working as good as I thought it would. But it's working. I just have to have patience and let it dry in between. All right, so I will wait. I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to bring you back to the mermaid for a moment. Do you see how we've got sort of this cloudy area here? I'm wiping it away with a damp brush. Yeah, that's just the residue from the sand. Very, very light powder. So what I've done is just dampen my paintbrush. I put it in the water and then I wiped it with a cloth, and all I'm doing is wiping away that excess residue. And it's not going to harm the sand. It's not going to harm the, there we go. It's not going to harm the paint that we've laid down underneath. It's completely dry, so that won't move as long as it's dry. Well, I guess it is, because if we've laid our sand down, it has to be dry. So you see how that picks up that dust nicely, and then it makes the picture a lot cleaner looking. So I'm just going to go ahead and also cleaning up the chalk lines that I used to draw the outline of my mermaid with. Okay, so this just cleans it up. That's all we're doing now, is cleaning away the excess residue. Okay, I'll finish doing that and then we'll take another picture and see how that looks. There we go. So I cleaned up all that residue, and you'll notice in this area here, I had a little excess water on my brush and it went into the sand. So it's a little bit wet right now, but that's okay. It will dry and it will stay put. So there's our beautiful mermaid. And now if you want to, if you have little pieces of shell or little pebbles or anything, and you want to glue those onto your piece and make it even more mixed media, then that would be an extra bonus feature. Yes, you could do anything you want with your masterpiece. It's yours. Use your imagination freely and enjoy the process. For Mr. Neptune here, I've decided that this will be a little bit more of a challenging piece for the older kids, okay, or for those younger ones who have a steady hand and want to challenge yourself. I'm going to use the school glue. It's the one that has a very small tip on the end. We are going to literally trace these lines, all right, or just inside the lines. Actually, I like the look of the tracing that I've done already with the blue marker. So let's put the glue just inside those lines, and for each object we'll use a different color. Okay, you can use the same color if you like, but I'm going to use a different color today. I'm going to do the trident in a red. I'm going to do his crown in the orange. I'm going to do his hair in the purple. I'm going to do his body in a green, and I'll do the water with the blue. All I'm going to do is literally trace just inside those lines, and then we're going to sprinkle our colored sand on, and we're going to see how that works. This one will create sort of a puffy effect, right? If we're literally pouring, right, very gently lines of paint, it's going to stay bubbled up a little bit. So this will create a nice textured feel when we're done. Okay, so we need a really steady hand here. We need a lot of patience for this one. Try to do each section, of color at a time so that your colors don't blend. You're probably going to need to give yourself a minute or two, or say a few minutes actually, to be more realistic, for that area to dry a little bit before you go on to the next color. Okay, so let's get that started, and we'll see what kind of effect we come out with our Neptune. Oh, there's our Neptune right there. That worked out really cool. I'd have to say my Neptune and the mermaid are probably my favorite methods for creating sand art. The fish, although I really enjoyed the salt and the color of the salt, putting it on the plain paper probably wasn't the best idea. Maybe next time we'll use the watercolor paper like Neptune is on here. Once this dries, the colors will be a little bit more vibrant because now again the sand is wet since it's been added to the glue. So I'm quite happy with this little guy here. So I challenge you, and even if you want to do this method here with just, you know, using the edge of or the end of your glue bottle to create lines, and then put your salt or sand on it and have it look more like this rather than filled in completely. This one's my favorite. Which one's your favorite? And don't forget to share online, #CampOptimist2020.